Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, Suicide Squad.
Something tells me a whole lot of people are about to die.
Harleen Quinzel had a rough childhood with an abusive, alcoholic father and often got into trouble as a teen. She later studied psychology and started working at Arkham Asylum, where she met the Joker. He manipulated her emotionally and she fell in love with him. To prove her loyalty, she jumped into a vat of chemicals with him. This changed her appearance, bleaching her skin and coloring her hair, and marked the start of her new identity as Harley Quinn. Harley was trapped in a toxic, codependent relationship and lost herself trying to please the Joker. Her darker side came out when she went too far, creating deadly games to harm kids and torturing Tim Drake. Over time, she became a skilled, dangerous fighter with her own wild, colorful style. In Suicide Squad, she stands by the Joker and fights with the team, showing extreme loyalty. But in Birds of Prey, she finally breaks free. She blows up Ace Chemicals and joins a group of women to protect Cassandra Cain and take down Black Mask. Harley's journey doesn't end in defeat. She survives and walks away from the Joker and starts building a life of her own. Annie Wilkes, Misery.
God, I love you.
Annie Wilkes was born on April 1st, 1943, in Bakersfield, California. She studied nursing at USC and later worked in Colorado. To the outside world, she seemed like a kind, caring woman, and she proudly called herself the biggest fan of romance writer Paul Sheldon. But everything changed when Paul killed off her favorite character, Misery Chastain. Annie lost control. She rescued Paul after a car accident, but instead of taking him to a hospital, she kept him trapped in her isolated home and tortured him. Her past was even darker than it seemed. She kept a scrapbook filled with her dark trophies, like killing her own father, nearly 70 patients and 11 babies at a maternity ward. But because there wasn't enough evidence, she was never convicted. Stephen King based her character on a real-life killer nurse named Janine Jones. Annie showed signs of serious mental illness. She was extremely emotional, obsessive, and had sudden mood swings. One moment she'd be caring, the next violent. She believed Paul loved her and wouldn't let him go. In the end, Paul tricks her with a fire and attacks her, finally escaping. Annie dies shortly after, still clinging to her madness. Azula, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
You're so dramatic. What? Are you going to challenge me to an Agni Kai?
Azula is the crown princess of the Fire Nation in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and we first meet her when she's just 14 years old. She's the daughter of Fire Lord Ozai and Princess Ursa, and Zuko's younger sister. Raised in a high-pressure, competitive home, she became a powerful but ruthless firebender early on. Azula stood out for her rare ability to bend blue flames and create lightning, showing how controlled and intense she was. Ozai, her father, always favored her over Zuko, which made her believe power and fear were the only way to lead. But with a distant mother and no emotional support, she grew jealous of Zuko and desperate for validation, which slowly affected her mental state. Azula was really cold and manipulative. She used fear to control others, played with her friends' insecurities, and seemed to enjoy others' pain. When Mai and Ty Lee betrayed her, she snapped and even laughed when Zuko got hurt, showing how emotionally detached she'd become. She showed signs of serious emotional issues like unstable identity, paranoia, and quick mood swings, which only worsened after betrayals from her closest friends, Mai and Ty Lee. Still, she was a brilliant strategist and even conquered Ba Sing Se through manipulation and planning. Her downfall came during Sozin's Comet. In a final duel with Zuko, her emotions took over, and Katara defeated her by trapping her in ice. She broke down mentally and was later placed in a mental health facility. In the comics, she helped Zuko find their mother before disappearing, leaving her future uncertain but hopeful. Villanelle, killing Eve. Villanelle, whose real name is Oksana Vorontsova, is a Russian assassin working for a secret group called the 12. She grew up in a tough environment, abandoned and mistreated as a child, which left her emotionally damaged. She's clever, cold, and often shows no guilt for her actions, but deep down she longs for a real connection, especially with her handler Constantine and a British agent named Eve Pilastri. The 12 trained her to be a highly skilled and stylish killer. She often uses charm and femininity to catch people off guard, making her killings look effortless. Her relationship with Eve becomes a strange obsession. It's intense, emotional, and filled with mixed feelings like attraction, rivalry, and fascination. What makes Villanelle truly dangerous is how she kills with cold precision and twisted creativity. Each murder feels like art to her, and she enjoys the control it gives. Her lack of empathy, love for chaos, and manipulative nature make her dangerously unpredictable. In the show's final episode, Villanelle dies saving Eve from gunfire. The attack is planned by Carolyn Martins, who secretly turns against the 12 and sets up Villanelle's death. Her final moments show how much she changed from a heartless killer to someone willing to protect the person she cared about most. Eurus Holmes, Sherlock.
I can fix her for you and then I'll give you her straight back, good as new. I promise.
Eurus Holmes is the long-lost younger sister of Sherlock and Mycroft, born into the Holmes family in Britain. She's even smarter than Sherlock, but she never developed normal emotions. As a child, Eurus was emotionless and distant. She killed Sherlock's best friend by trapping him in a well and later burned down their house, which led to her being locked up in Sharonford. Her greatest weapon and the reason she was so hard to defeat was her ability to control people with words, manipulating staff, driving some to suicide, and completely bending others to her will. Every Christmas, she made Mycroft bring her gifts, including a private meeting with Moriarty. Together, they planned a twisted revenge scheme, even after Moriarty's death. Eurus doesn't act out of pure evil. She's a highly intelligent sociopath who plays dangerous mental games just to feel something. In the final problem, she traps Sherlock, Mycroft, and Watson in painful challenges, forcing them to face impossible choices. But in the end, Sherlock doesn't beat her with logic. He reaches out with compassion. He gives her the emotional connection she always needed, and she willingly returns to Sharonford. Catherine Tremell, Basic Instinct.
I'd have to be pretty stupid to write a book about killing and then kill somebody the way I described it in my book. I'd be announcing myself as the killer.
Catherine Tremell is a rich crime writer living in San Francisco. She studied psychology at UC Berkeley and later became famous for her dark and twisted novels. Her parents died in a suspicious boat explosion in 1979, and not long after, she wrote a book with a similar storyline, making people wonder if it was more than just fiction. Even during her college years, strange things happened. Her therapist, Professor Goldstein, was murdered with an ice pick, just like in one of her later books. Catherine's way of living is cold, calculated, and extremely manipulative. The most disturbing thing about her is that she's a sociopath. She lies effortlessly, craves risk, feels no guilt, and takes pleasure in manipulating others. She spends time with known criminals and writes stories that closely mirror real-life murders, making it hard to tell where her fiction ends and reality begins. Her favorite weapon seems to be the ice pick, and she often uses charm and seduction to get close to people, only to kill them later. She never shows remorse. In Basic Instinct, Detective Nick Curran falls for her despite the danger. In the final scene, as they sleep together, an ice pick is shown under the bed, leaving us unsure if she'll love him or kill him next. Esther Coleman, Lena Klammer, Orphan.
What are you doing? Are you crazy?
Lena Klammer pretended to be a little girl named Esther Coleman, but in reality, she was a 33-year-old woman from Estonia. She had a rare condition called hypopituitarism, which made her look like a 9-year-old child, even though she was fully grown. Lena had a very dark past. She was abused by her father when she was young, and after he abandoned her for not being woman enough, she committed her first murders. This led to her being locked up in the Sarna Institute, a psychiatric hospital. There, she was so violent they had to restrain her in straitjackets, leaving scars she later hid with ribbons. She eventually escaped and started working for wealthy, twisted men. When caught, she pretended to be a lost child to avoid prison, leading her to orphanages. Mentally, Lena showed many signs of a dangerous personality. Her real danger was how she used her innocent look to gain trust, especially from father figures, and if rejected, she'd kill entire families. She's believed to have murdered at least 7 people. In the movie Orphan, she tricks the Coleman family into adopting her. She tries to flirt with the father, kills Sister Abigail, attempts to harm the kids, and then tries to seduce the dad again. When he rejects her, everything falls apart. In the end, during a struggle on a frozen lake, the mother, Kate, manages to break Lena's neck and drown her, finally putting an end to her terrifying games. Pearl.
Please, I'm a star!
Pearl Douglas is a young German-American woman living on a quiet farm in Texas during 1918, while the Spanish flu spreads and her husband is away fighting in 1858 World War I. Stuck under the strict rules of her harsh mother and trapped in a lonely life, Pearl starts dreaming of a better future, one filled with dancing, movies, and fame. But her behavior slowly takes a dark turn. She begins by harming animals, mistreating her disabled father, and even bonding with a nearby alligator, signs that something isn't right. When her mother tries to control her even more, a fight breaks out and Pearl ends up killing her in a fire. She hides the body and pretends everything is normal. Later, she stabs a local projectionist with a pitchfork after he decides to leave her. When she fails a dance audition she pinned all her hopes on, it breaks her completely. In a chilling scene, she confesses everything to her sister-in-law Mitzi, then kills her too. Pearl was a functioning psychopath, charming on the outside but cold and ruthless inside. Her most terrifying trait was how she used pitchforks, axes, and pillows to kill, turning each murder into a twisted performance, fueled by rejection and her need for control. In the end, she sets her parents' rotting bodies at the dinner table and welcomes her husband home with a smile, trapping him in her twisted world. At least she left a mark. She burned bright, bled for her dreams, and dragged others down with her. But not everyone in fiction gets that far. Some villains barely manage to raise the stakes, let alone a weapon. They fumble, they fail, and sometimes they just fall apart trying to be bad. They're the fiction's weakest villains. But that's another story for our channel Fabulogic. See you there.